Hi, and once again, welcome to my experiences. And I'm gonna say it again, these are my experiences. Take them as you will. Believe them, don't believe them. Whatever you need to do, don't even watch them if you are just gonna mock them, make fun of them, whatever. Because the things that happened to me inside this house are pretty interesting. Let's just put it that way. Let me start out by telling you a little bit about this house. Now, it started out as a farmhouse. The farm had acres of land, fields of corn, apple trees, pear trees, horses, cattle. It was a farm, you know. Back in those days, they didn't have a kitchen, a modern kitchen, so they had wells, they had the things they had back in those days for farming. So, as everything progresses, as it does, something happened with the farm. The house became a funeral home where we had our living room, they had the showing of the bodies. But after it was a funeral home, it was modernized. Kitchen was added, and it became a rental property. Hence, for this building's over 100 years old, probably close to 200 by now. Well, at this time, I'm about 7, 8 years old. We lived there till I was about 12, 13. And it's where I had my most experiences. It's where my most memorable moments happened. And I'm going to take you through as many of them as I can remember. Because I'm sure there's ones I forgot. I'm sure there's ones that I'll probably remember 5-10 minutes later after I make the video, and I'm not even gonna edit in or anything like that. I'm just gonna, yeah, so anyway, let me get to it. I'm gonna talk about Marvin the Martian because he was a story and experience that it was just weird, creepy, unusual. It was just one of those things that's like, wow, that really happened. So, whenever I was upset or just wanted to be by myself, I would always go to the woods. And that's where I would find my peace. It's where I could breathe. It's just where I felt like me. Well, in the back of the field of the farmhouse, the old farmhouse, there was a pretty decent wooded area. It wasn't very big, but it was decent sized, to where the landowners would actually go back there and hunt, during hunting season and stuff like that. So I'd often go back into those woods and follow game trails or follow this trail or not even follow a trail, just make a path of my own I could always find my way out. It was just, it was on, I could always find my way out. So this one day I was following this game trail, and I noticed from a little bit of a distance there was this sapling that kind of grew in an archway. And I'm like, oh, how cool. So me being the kid I was, I wanted to pretend like I was walking through a magical door. So I was walking through that magical door, and exploring and, just going on through this game trail. And as I'm going on, I'm kind of looking through the trees and I'm seeing something, kind of brightly colored. And I'm like, well, that's kind of odd to be in the woods. So I'm walking closer and closer. And I noticed that it's it was like a Marvin the Martian stuffed animal. One of those stuffed characters that were filled with those little beads, those little foam beads. And it was leaned up against a log with its arm kind of off to the side, and its head was kind of slumped, and it was kind of laying there. And then I walked closer, and I noticed there was this little pond that was behind a stump. And there was like impressions all around the pond that, kind of looked like, prints, animals or something like that. I just took them as, just walking into the little pond there, getting something to drink, swimming around. Who knows what the little imprints were. Well, I picked up this Marvin the Martian stuffed doll and I took him home. I showed him to my mom. She's like, take that thing outside. It's full of fucking earwigs. Just take it outside, put it on the front porch. The earwigs will leave it. You don't want to go to the ground. And I'll sew it up later on. I'm like, okay. So I went to bed, and the next morning I woke up and I went out to the front porch, and Marvin the Martian was not there. He wasn't in the chair that I sat him on. And I'm just like, Mom, what did you do with them? Did you throw them away? What did you do with them? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what I did with them, what you did with them. I haven't seen them. I'm just like, whatever. I figured she just threw them away. And I was upset, so I went for a walk in the woods. And I said, screw it. And I went back to the place that I found Marvin the Martian in, I'm just like, screw it, walk through the doorway again and getting closer, and I see those bright colors. So I get closer, and he's sitting there against that log. Get closer, and I noticed from the pond there were footprints of a child probably younger than me, barefoot, that came out of the pond, and then you could see where they went back in. I left. I'd left the Marvin Martian there. I left. I didn't go back into the woods for a little while after that. At least I didn't go back to that section for a little while after that. I didn't want to know if Marvin Martian was there or not, honestly. And that had been like one of the things that are always gonna stick with me was that Marvin the Martian doll, because I still don't know how he got back to that spot and why there were barefoot footprints. Yeah. So Another thing I remember is the property we lived at. Right next door to it was the township park. Well, during Halloween time and different holidays, they had different things and gatherings and things going on at the park. It happened to be Halloween time, so they had a witch walk. Well, some of my friends, were the actors of this witch walk, and I went through the witch walk myself without, anybody around, just looking at it and seeing what was all there. And, during the day, I knew what was all about, and it was a witch walk. So, being that I lived right next door to the park, whenever I knew the witch walk was going on at night, that whole week I used to sit outside on my front porch and listen to them scream and holler, and laugh, and the chainsaws is just starting up, and the witches cackling, and you could hear all those things from where I was sitting at. Especially if the wind was blowing right, you could hear it all. So I'd sit there at night and I'd listen to them. Well, you're sitting there looking around and looking at the outside scenery, and on the other side of my driveway, we had the old barn that had all the old farm equipment in it. And this barn, it was a tin steel barn, or it had that wavy sides to it. That's what it was made of. It's that wavy metal material, and it was rusted and falling apart, and it was just unsafe to go into. And the landlord always told us, just stay out of that area. Whatever you do, stay out of it. It's dangerous. So, I stayed my ass out. I didn't want to get hurt. I wasn't stupid. I should have explored it, honestly. I should have. Because it would have been probably pretty cool to actually see what was all in there. And I might have gotten more experiences if I actually went into it. But anyway. So, I'm sitting there. And I'm looking at the barn. And I noticed without the doors opening, these teenagers, and there was about 4 or 5 of them. They were all male, and they were all dressed in like varsity jackets, and had those jeans that have the pegs at the bottom, and their hair was slicked back. I mean, they looked like old greasers. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at them, and I'm sitting there going, where'd they come from? I'm sitting there going, did they walk over from the park? Did they, but I swore they come out of the freaking doors. I'm like, where the hell did they come from? So I'm watching them, and they're walking down the driveway, and from the driveway to the house, there was this little narrow sidewalk that, would come down to the house, the front porch. And they start coming down the front porch, coming down that trail. I'm sitting there watching, and I'm slowly standing up, because I'm thinking, why are these guys coming up to my front porch? What do they want? Do they see me sitting here? Are they trying to come and talk to me? What do these guys want? They're older than me. And right before my eyes, they got like 20 feet away from me, and one by one, they disappeared. I'm just sitting there going, wow. Did I just see that? I mean, they were talking and having a good time, and talking about, I forget what they were talking about at the time, but I could hear their conversation, and they just one by one, in front of my eyes. And, it was just like, I didn't sit outside for a few nights, but I could never stay away from the outside. It was always my comfort area, so I was always outside doing something. So, oh, where else can I? Oh, yeah. So, a couple things happened in my basement of the old farmhouse. That's where our old washer, our washer and dryer was, and down in the old basement was the bottom of the chimney chute where they would have the old fire they would, warm the whole house up with. In the one corner, there was the old oil tank they used to heat the house with after, oil came about. And then the gas tank was added later on because there was a gas well on the property. They found gas, on their land, and that's how they then supplied the heat. But, all the evidence of what was in the past was there. There was even the old well that was still there. It wasn't very large. It was a small well, but it was their well. Then there was even remnants of it being a morgue at one point in time. There was a bathroom in the one corner that was just a toilet, and it had some shelves there, but the toilet never worked. We never were able to use that toilet, so we just kind of used it as like a little storage area. But it had lights all the way around, the chimney being in the center. So the basement was kind of like a donut style with a door that led out to the outdoors. It was just a small little door, and, nothing big, just wooden. And whenever they added the kitchen, there was a crawl space put into the basement to where you can get underneath the kitchen if, anything, pipes froze, needed maintenance, whatever you have it. There was just this little crawl space that, a normal sized person could fit through. Well, me being a preteen, I was doing laundry, helping my mom out with chores, and every now and again, whenever I passed by that little crawl space hole, it would look like there was just a face, peering out of the blackness. Pretty much how my face is right now. How it's illuminated. Just that face. I wouldn't see any hair. I wouldn't see anything other than the face. And every now and again, I would swear that there was, a face just peering out at me, looking at me. It would always creep me out because it just felt like there was always somebody watching you as you walk past that little crawl space area. Well, then one day, I was doing laundry, and I was carrying loads up and down, up and down. Well, I carried a load down, and it felt really weird. So I started down the stairs, and about the third or fourth stair down, I felt something grab my ankle and pull me. So I fell down, my back hit the stair, I lost my breath, I couldn't catch my breath. If you ever been hit in the back hard enough, when you literally lose your breath, I couldn't catch my breath. And with it being the first time that's ever happened to me, I was scared shitless, I was starting to cry. My mom was, saying, "Oh, quit freaking out, you're fine, don't worry about it." I didn't want to tell her that, something just grabbed my foot and make me sound fucking crazy. So I just kind of picked everything up because in my fall, the basket of clothes just fell everywhere. So I had to pick everything up, put it back in a basket. So as I'm at the bottom of the stairs, I'm looking around, turning all the lights on as I go around, being really nervous, like, what was that? Switched the loads out, bringing the load up that was out of the dryer. And I'm turning the lights off. And I start getting really uneasy. I'm like, something's down here. It don't feel right, It just don't feel right. I start, turn all the lights off as I'm leaving the areas. I get to the last light, and the only light left is the one at the top of the stairs. So I'm sitting there going, okay, after I turn this light off, the whole basement's dark, except for the light at the top of the stairs. And I'm sitting there going, okay. So I start the stairs, about halfway up, I hear, "Get out." I freeze. I'm like, did I really just hear that? Then once again it says, "Get out." I'm just like, and I start to turn around, and I look. And this face, I'll never forget this. It was something out of your nightmares. It was just this, if you could ever imagine a demon, a devil, it was that face. Just the evil looking face with the ram type horns. And just for a split second, it was there, and then it was gone. And I ran up those stairs as fast as I could. I'll never forget that. Because that face just peered out of that darkness and then peered back. And I'll never forget that. I ran up those stairs really, really fast. But I just didn't want people to think I was crazy. I never told my story, I never told things like that. Because my experiences, to me, they sounded crazy. I was up in my room at night, and my room was on the upper floor, and to get up to the upper floor, you had to open this old wooden door that would stick, and when you would hear it pull and open, you would hear the, whenever it would open, and you would hear it shut, and it would obviously make noise. And the stairs were really narrow and really tiny, so they would creak and make noise, and the rail at the top, it was really wobbly and loose, so it would squeak as you held it and went around the corner. So, you could always hear somebody coming up those stairs whenever somebody would come up. My brother would be sleeping in the room next to me, because me and my brother were the ones that were upstairs. My parents' room was downstairs. And I'd step in my bedroom, and my door would be shut, and I would hear somebody come up the stairs, open the door, come up the stairs, hold on to the rail. They came up and turned a corner. Then they would walk up to my door and sit there, and nothing. I'm sitting there going, okay. Well, then weird things started happening. My radio would start turning on in the middle of the night. My light switch would just click and turn on, and I'd have to go over and turn it back off, and it would turn back on and turn back off, and just weird little things like that would start happening, and kind of started really freaking me out. And then whatever came up the stairs, like it would always do, started coming to my door and opening it just about that far, just like an inch. And then I wouldn't hear anything. I would look at the door, and I'd be like, who's there? Is there anybody there? No response. Nothing else happened. No sounds. But later on that night, my radio would start turning off and on. I would have this dream where I was laying in bed and these cloaked figures were standing around me, all just surrounding the bed all the way around me, and they would be lifting me up in the air. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd feel myself, it literally felt like I'd fall back into bed. And I'm like, I was dreaming, I was dreaming. Why did it feel like I literally fell back in bed? Was it just mine in my dream? Well, then these cloaked figures, would come to me again and again and again. And near one of the final times I seen them, they lifted me up and started burning my feet. They put a torch to my feet and started burning my feet. And I didn't wake up until the fire actually caught. And whenever I woke up, I could swear I still seen them as I felt myself drift down. But after that time, I don't remember ever seeing them again. So let me tell you about the boy that used to follow me. Now, I seen him in 2 places that I lived in. I don't know if he was somebody that was just following me or what, but I sit in my bedroom, which was upstairs, as I explained before, and I hear tink, tink against my window, and I'm like, it sounds like somebody's throwing a rock at my window. And there was a little stream in front of my house that you could get little pebbles out of. So I looked out my window and there was this little, this kid about my age that would stand down below my window and throw rocks up. Well, I open up the window and I'm like, what are you doing? Why who are you? And he's like, oh, don't worry about that. He's like, I'm just somebody who wants to hang out and, talk to you now and again, as long as you let me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean if I let you? Of course I'll let you sit here and talk to me. Why don't I come down and see you? He's like, no, don't come down and see me. Just stay in your bedroom. I'm like, no, I'm going to come down and see you. So I, got dressed, came down, and he wasn't anywhere to be found. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd, where'd he go? So I went back upstairs in my bedroom, laid back down, started doing whatever I was doing, and once again I started hearing the pebbles bounce off my window, and I'm like, so I went to the window, and there he is again. I open up my window, I'm like, what the heck? I was just down there and you weren't there. He's like, I told you to stay in your room. And I'm like, okay. So me and this kid, from time to time would talk outside of my window. And one day, after, a few weeks of this going on, I asked him, I said, why won't you let me come down and see you? Why did you disappear? Why did you go away whenever I came down that first day? He's like, 'cause you can't see me unless I let you see me. And I don't want you to see me up close. I'd rather you see me from a distance. He's like, if you see me up close, I might scare you. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm not alive anymore. And if you see me up close, I might scare you. So I never asked any more questions. I just knew that from here on out, I was having a friend that was a spirit. And he followed me from this place to the next place I moved to. But after that, I haven't seen him since. I don't know whatever happened to him. Wish I ever knew his name. He never told me his name either, which was kind of odd. So I took a little pause because I was trying to remember if there was anything else I could honestly remember before I tell my last story. And the only thing I can really say that I remember is I used to find like Indian arrowheads all the time on the property. I used to always dig up the dirt. There was this bushy area that were probably small shrubs back in the day, but they became pretty large size, shrubs that you could climb on. I used to, sit there and dig in the dirt and, have fun. And I used to find arrowheads, from time to time, which were just kind of a little cool fact I wanted to throw out there. So this next story, I want to start off by saying I recall it as a dream. That's how I recall it. And over the years, as I've told people this dream, I've been told it possibly could be more. I'll let you decide. So, I go to sleep one night and have a dream. I get awakened by these really bright lights shining into my bedroom windows. I'm sitting there going, what the hell? Is there like a car in the ditch or something? So I get up and I look out the window, and this light's not coming from the road, it's coming from the sky. And then I start looking as the lights are focusing on different windows in the front of my house. And it's this egg-shaped type thing with antennas sticking out from the bottom and top that were with little lights at the bottom at the very ends of the antenna. And these bands of light that went around this thing that seemed to rotate, or I'm sitting there going, what is this? And then the light comes back into the window that I'm at, and maybe it seen that I seen it, so it darted off to the other side of the house and started, spotlighting all the windows on that side. So I go into my other window. I'm looking out my small little window, and I'm looking at this thing still, and I'm going, what the heck is this? Well, it shined into my window again. Must have seen that I seen it again, and it darted off into my backyard, the old field out back, the old cornfield. I'm sitting there going. So I run down the stairs and I run out to my kitchen, and I look out the kitchen window to where you can see the field, and this thing's coming down and down and lands in the field by the woods. right by where I always go in and out, right near the. So I'm looking at this aircraft, and I notice that it starts opening up. Then I start seeing figures walking out of the object. So I freak out. I'm closing. I'm going around, locking the doors, closing the curtains, making sure the windows are locked. Well, I get both the doors in the kitchen, secured. Get the windows in the kitchen secured. Walk through the bathroom. There was this little closet area before you got into my parents' room. There was a window in it. As I was closing it, there was only thing what I could describe is what everybody else says, a gray. It was a being, 4 foot, 5 foot tall. Teardrop shaped face, almond eyes. Just a line for a mouth, just holes for a nose, holes for ears. The skin looked pale, gray. Like they looked sickly, where you could see their ribs and see their muscles and their skeletal system. They were coming in the window. I couldn't close the window. I couldn't lock it. I ran to my parents' room. They were already in there. They already opened those windows and got into my parents' room. I'm sitting there trying to wake my mom up. I'm going, Mom, wake up, wake up. She wouldn't wake up. They're all looking at me and realizing, that I'm just a child or something, and one comes up behind me, puts his hand on my shoulder, and I can just feel the fingers kind of go like this. Just 3 fingers. Just kind of go like that on my shoulder. And the next thing I know, I'm in bed, woke up. It's morning. I'm going, that was a fucked up dream. That was really fucked up. I'm just like, yeah, whatever, that was really messed up. So, a couple of days goes by, I'm not really thinking about anything. I'm not thinking about the dream. I'm not even worried about it. I go for my occasional walk in the woods. Well, as I'm going down the pathway that, is there now because the hunter's using it back and forth. There's like a little dirt pathway to the woods. I'm following that pathway, and I notice that there's like this patch of red, viney, thorny plants that I've never seen before. And it was in pretty much a perfect circle. And I'm sitting there going, that's odd. So I walk past it, and I'm heading towards the trees, and I'm looking at the trees, and I'm noticing the trees are like having an orange tint to them. From like 4 foot up to maybe 6 foot up, just like a band of orange. And I'm sitting there going, I've never seen that before. So I just go on my walk in the woods, and I'm noticing that the orange is only on the side facing the field. But I just ignore it. It didn't even dawn on me about the dream, didn't even, because it was a dream. So years later, I'm telling people about this dream, and they're like, let's go back to that area. I'm like, really? They're like, let's go back to that area. So we go back there. I mean, mind you, I'm in my 20s, late teens at least. go back to that area, and those trees were still orange. And my friend that, was all about biology and all about, you know, stuff like that, just didn't make sense to her. And, that's where everyone came up with, the whole, well, that other people who have these type of experiences recall them as dreams as well. I can't say that I actually had an alien experience, because to me it was a dream. But take it for what it is. But after that, my mom got a divorce from my stepdad, and we moved into an apartment complex. So, if you like what you heard and you'd like to hear about my experiences from my apartment complex, both whenever I lived there with my mother and whenever I lived there by myself with my own child. So if you would like to hear those experiences at the complex, check it out. And as always, like, share, comment. Peace, love, and happiness. See you guys later.